Okay, so both of the servers, both NA and Global, are getting new banners. For the NA server, we are getting TESARION, the Fire Ifrit, and for the Global server, you are getting the Water Pioneer, WOOSA. So in this video, I'll quickly go over whether you should or shouldn't summon these with your Mystical Scrolls. So because it will take way faster, I will start with TESARION. So for this guy, uh, I have to give an overwhelming yes. Even if you don't focus much on PvP, this guy will be amazing. In PvE, he may not help you progress, but he will be a very solid unit for overall usefulness. If you do plan on using him for PvP, he will excel even more. So first of all, if you don't know his skills, his first skill will apply a small chance of a burn effect. His second skill will deal damage based on the level of burn and apply defensive break. And the third skill will apply additional burns as well as do damage based on the burns as well. And the best part, the main selling point of TESARION is his passive, is that whenever an attack lands, you have a 70% chance to land Oblivion. This can be a charge skill, this can be a basic attack, whatever hits the enemy will have the chance to land this skill. So, first of all, why he is OP? If you check the units that can apply Oblivion, you will see a very small list of them, and two of them are actually light net 5s, so we're gonna take those out of the picture. There's a very small chance that you will summon them, so you shouldn't rely on them. However, for the other ones, there is the Fire Garuda, which has Oblivion on his second skill. However, it is a single target Oblivion and it's on a charge skill, so it is nowhere near useful as the TESARION one. Also, his third skill is a bit meh, so you will probably have a very hard time using it. Also, it's a nat 3, so the base stats of that unit will not scale well, and he will cap out, and with 6-star runes, probably like 100,000 power for you. Now, the other unit that has Oblivion is the Wind Hell Lady. This unit is an amazing unit for countering specific teams, especially in PvP. She's an assassin type, so she will go for the backline, but also her Oblivion is a single target one. I believe, is it this? Is this one right here? It costs 3 mana, so it doesn't cost much, and it also applies defense down. So for specific scenarios, Etna will be a better option for you as far as Oblivion goes to target the backline, especially in Arena. However, in other cases, TESARION will be just a more reliable Oblivion unit for that. And yeah, other than that, if you haven't seen my previous video on TESARION, you can actually check it out in the pinned comment. I reviewed this skill because upon further looking into it, it actually has a pretty similar multiplier to Narin Ha with 9 debuffs when you're comparing a TESARION with level 10 burn. And he does put up a good fight as far as raid damage goes, because in raids with 3 people you have a pretty easy time stacking level 10 burn, especially if your party members have additional burn units. But yeah, definitely not top tier DPS. However, he does compete for one of the top spots as far as damage goes. And yeah, without even mentioning regular PvP scenarios, a unit with defense break and continuous Oblivion will allow you to easily conquer a lot of PvP opponents. It may be a little bit more difficult in Arena and Brawl Arena because the AI pretty much decides what the unit attacks. So since TESARION is an archer, he will focus the front line, and if the front line is something like a water unit or a unit that doesn't have a passive, it will be a little bit more difficult. But if you're using him, for example, in Battlefield, he will be amazing there, as you can simply go for the summoner, straight up give Oblivion to them, and as you know, Oblivion silences all passives, and if you look at the summoner passives, they have actually 9 of them, and every single one of them will get silenced, meaning that it won't work. For Cleave, this means that the Endure will not pop, the monsters will not receive reduced damage, anything like that. For Kina, I believe she buffs her units various ways. For Orbia, she has some sort of a safety. I believe it's a shield if I'm not wrong, so none of that will work, and it's a perfect counter for PvP. And now let's talk about WOOSA, the Fire Water Pioneer. So, let's get this out of the way. First of all, if you don't plan on doing PvP seriously, do not summon him. He's mostly a PvP unit. He has the most use in Arena, Brawl Arena, and Battlefield because of mostly of this skill. And as you know, immunity is a amazing counter to a lot of different units, and the only way to counter immunity is pretty much to only strip it, and you can pick your teams around that, so that if you see a defense without a stripper, for example, or when you're picking your brawl picks, you notice that the enemy did not pick a stripper or only picked one stripper, you can play around that. For example, if you see in brawl the enemy picked one stripper, you ban the stripper, and if he lets WOOSA through, that is a pretty surefire way to get the victory. If he doesn't, you can sort of play around your other three members of your team around that. So for example, make sort of a really strong team around the first three and just pick a fourth pick WOOSA that allows you to buff up immunity without the ability for the enemy to strip it, and without the ability to land debuffs, enemies will have a very hard time doing damage to you. As for other uses, he also has a shield on his third skill, which is pretty decent. It's a tiny bit stronger than Bastet's shield, which is, I believe, at 22% of her max HP. And he is one of the few units that does give shield, and in my opinion, shield is a super strong debuff, as long, or rather buff, as long as the enemy is not able to strip it. It is acting like sort of a secondary health bar, and for content where your damage dealers may be dying a lot, that is an amazing addition to their sustainability. As you can see, the units that apply shields are very few, so there is Bastet and WOOSA. These two are pretty much the main ones. The third decent unit that applies shields is the Rina, so the Water Epicium Pierced. However, she is a nat 4, so of course her stats will be way lower. Her shield scaling is also a little bit lower than Bastet. So if you are looking specifically for shield, I personally would recommend sticking with Bastet. However, if you do need immunity with your shields, or you just need immunity in general, WOOSA will be a better choice. But now, before you go ahead and summon WOOSA, let me tell you some downsides to it. First of all, if you look at this skill, you'll notice that the cooldown as well as the mana cost of the skill is really long. At 5 mana cost and immunity being 14 seconds, you actually leave a window where that immunity will be down for a few seconds. So even when soul linked, you are not able to permanently keep the immunity up, because when maxed, 1 mana will regen every 3 seconds, and that means that to get 5 mana, you will need 15 seconds. Also, before the unit decides to use that skill, you will need another second or two. So if you're fighting an opponent where you must not receive any debuffs at all, this unit will not be the way, and you are better off going with a unit like Shushu, who is actually, when soul linked, able to upkeep the immunity permanently. So as you can see, her immunity also lasts for 14 seconds, and it only costs 4 mana, as well as the cooldown is of course lower. So in scenarios, whether it's PvP or PvE, if you need that permanent immunity, Shushu will be the better option for it. So yeah, just to recap about WOOSA, if you plan on doing PvP sort of seriously, do consider using him. If you don't plan on doing PvP, I recommend not summoning him and sticking with the options that are more freely available. So for shields, you are better off using a Bastet or even Arena. For immunity, you are better off using a Shushu, and in some cases she might even be better than WOOSA in some PvE scenarios. But if you plan on doing PvP and you feel like he will be a great addition for you, I do recommend summoning him. Just for reference, I can show you the top teams that are currently used in Brawl as well as regular arena defenses, and you will see WOOSA does appear there quite a bit. So as you can see, there's 1, 2 WOOSAs, another 3, 4 right here. So yeah, he is sort of a common occurrence in PvP and especially Brawl Arena, but also keep in mind that his skills have a very long cooldown and the mana costs are pretty high, so it leaves sort of a window to get countered. For example, compared to a Galleon who can actually launch this offensive ability in 3 mana, meaning that you will be waiting for another 6 seconds after this ability is cast for you to cast a WOOSA shield, and in those 6 seconds, there's a very high chance that your units will actually just die and you will not even have a chance to buff up the immunity. So yeah, be careful about that. And just to check the defenses, you can see that these sometimes appear in the arena defense. As you can see, a few WOOSAs here. Let's see if we can find any more. There we go, another WOOSA here, another here. So it's not as common in here because arena is very galleon heavy, because with galleon you are able to quickly set up the damage and nuke a unit or two, rather than just playing this long game and waiting for the shields to come up. So yeah, I hope this sheds some light on how both of those units work, and of course final decision is up to you. I'm just giving my opinion on how I feel about these units, and yeah, I'll see you in the next one.